And here we are.
Oh, sorry. We're just...
Bongo.
Welcome back to our lovely little show. Special Ed is here today, but I just found out he's not going to be here tomorrow. What do you got? And Thursday?
I'm here Thursday.
Friday?
And I'm here Friday.
Thursday and Friday, Ed's back. Tomorrow, tomorrow we have Cam Batley from Aurora. And we're going to challenge him to a duel where we shall skewer him on the tip of my sword. Should he give one wrong answer, I will skewer him to death. Anyways.
Wow, that's quite a...
French accent. I know, usually I try to do a French accent and I start with a German accent or a Australian.
It's sort of reminiscent of that cartoon character, Pepe Le Pew.
Pepe Le Pew. Oh, yeah.
The little skunk.
Little Lance Romance, that guy. So how you doing today, Ed?
Well,
you're dressed sharp.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd pick it up a notch today.
I saw that, and I of course had to try to match it with my
follow suit.
Follow suit with my cheap Winners jacket.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, $70 at Winners, everybody.
Yeah. I always like to go and get jackets when they're on sale.
Yeah.
I just feel
everything's always on sale at Winners. The place is a sale.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking like the West End, End shop at Eaton's.
Do you ever squander like $1,500 on a sport jacket at like Holt Renfrew or anything like that?
No.
I like passive aggressive. I like to save money, then I like to go out and blow it on ridiculous amounts.
It's funny how we have our everybody has their sort of
their peccadillos,
their penchants, their
habits.
What's a peccadillo? Is that like a small sin?
Peccadillo is
a fault.
No, it's not necessarily a fault. It's a habit.
But it's not a positive thing, is it?
I think it is.
I don't think it is.
Well, if you have no peccadillos, you have nothing going for you.
Right.
You've got to have peccadillos. Is a peccadillo a negative thing? Let's go look at our audience and see if anybody there has a clue. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they know better than us. In fact, pretty sure that almost every time we ask the audience a question, they know better than we do. Which is kind of a relief, because technically that means we have a very sophisticated audience.
Erudite audience.
I think erudite refers to speaking. Well, which technically they are, I guess.
Okay, like a very smart audience.
Smart.
Sophisticated.
Sophisticated, intelligent. Our viewers are smart and sophisticated, intelligent viewers. Yeah. They're not your average, run-of-the-mill, popcorn gobbling, bonbon swilling, or maybe they are. I don't know. Let's not talk about the audience while they're not here. Oh, wait, they are here. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our little show today. Hey. I know I said 3:30, but actually what I meant to say yesterday is it's 3 o'clock we're targeting for a daily start time.
Yeah.
Because we have, we have different people to talk to. Today we have Alan Brochstein at 3:30 is going to be joining us. Alan Brochstein's from Invest 420, and he's got another publication. I think it's New Cannabis Ventures, or am I confusing him with Frank Lane? I don't know. He will tell us at 3:30. Anyways, that's in exactly 9 minutes. Alan Brochstein will talk to him about the companies he likes, and he's tracking more of the U.S. side of the market. So we're going to talk to him about Tilray. We're going to talk to him about...
Tilray took it on the chin again today, quite a bit. At least I saw.
I guess we'll talk about Tilray now.
I'm just whetting the appetite of the audience.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to
We'll talk about Green Thumb Industries. We'll talk about Kush Bottles. We'll talk about Medmen. We'll talk about who else is operating in the United States of America.
Is T-God?
T-God?
High Hampton?
T-God's not in the U.S. No. We'll talk a bit about Aurora and their strategy to divest their U.S. interests in Australis. We'll talk about Liberty Health and their effort to separate, put a little distance between themselves and Afria just to appease the forces of regulation in Canada. What else will we talk about today, Ed?
Well, we always want to talk about the index.
The index.
Just to see
the index.
Which way the wind's blowing.
Which way the wind is blowing. I'm going to pull up the index right now, Ed, just to, NDI is open, check. Full screen, check. There's the index. Look at that.
That's a
the evil forces of downward suction have returned.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Is that the index, or is that a specific?
That's weed. The index. Oh, look at that. That's hilarious.
Is that weed?
Well, you know, it would be exaggeration.
That's
to say,
weed.
Yeah. Okay. So hold on. I was looking at
Yeah.
weed earlier.
Yeah.
And here's the index. Now we'll go to the full screen, and there's the index.
The index looks surprisingly like the chart of weed.
Well, that's because in many respects, weed is the index. Well, you know, did you know that now Tilray is the #3 company by market cap?
Wow.
Yeah, Afria got stomped on that way.
Put up Tilray here. I want to see what it's doing.
Tilray. Okay, jumping over to the U.S. thing. Let's go down. Here we go. TLRY, U.S. Ooh, I read the prospectus today. Boy, there's some interesting stuff there.
Look at this, $26.11 down.
Wow, 11%. Down 11%.
Yeah. Yeah, volume a lot lighter, but still lots of volume.
Wow.
5 million shares.
Did you know that Privateer Holdings still owns over 50% of Tilray?
Yeah.
So the public company play is a minority play. It's a controlled company by a private entity. How does that qualify as a public company? That's what I want to know.
Well, you got those special Class 2 shares.
Class 2? What is that, like second-class citizen?
Second-class citizen.
I don't know if I want to be a second-class citizen.
I know, second-class shareholder.
Yeah, no, you know what? We've reached out to Brendan Kennedy to get him in here for an interview so we can rake him over the coals about that. There's some other interesting things about Tilray. You know, the sales don't justify a $3.3 million valuation, but neither does arguably does an $8 billion justification exist in Canopy.
Canopy. Weed and Canopy being the same company.
Yeah.
But Aurora.
Yeah. Well, Aurora's, you know.
It's come off.
Aurora's got a lot of shares out.
I see one of the companies you mentioned yesterday where somebody was asking about, is it ISO? No,
Isodial.
Did you see they consolidated their shares 10 for 1?
10 for 1?
Yeah, there was 380 million. Now there's 38 million.
Well, that's...
Let's see, 10 for 1.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Is there a quick way of doing that calculation?
Yep.
Long division. Long division. Remember long division?
Just move that little decimal place over one.
We'll just move it. Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Just like that.
That's just like that.
What will they think of next?
I know, eh? Boy, those math guys.
Holy smokes.
So let's see Tilray. So Tilray's really taking it on the chin today. Let's look at some of the other U.S.-based companies.
It's hard to know what, you look at a 3 or 4 day.
Let's look at Kronos Group. Well, let's look at Kronos Group on NASDAQ, because let's see.
NASDAQ, that's where the action is.
Down 5.1%.
I got to tell you, okay, I just saw something here.
I'm going to look at GTII.
That Kronos thing, that does not look good.
GTI is up slightly. GTI is bucking the trend.
Wow, look at it. It's flying up 3 cents.
Flying. That's not too much of an exaggeration.
Hey, I got to sit down and I need a rest.
Whoa. That thing is, I'm getting dizzy.
You know what? I'm feeling a breeze. Can somebody turn up the heat? I'm getting cold from all the wind.
No kidding. Oh, where'd we go here? Let's see. Stock quotes.
Green thumb. Oh, yeah.
This is one of the companies that Alan was quite positive about. Who else we got? Ianthus. Let's look at Ianthus.
Okay.
Operating in the United States. Your survey says, it's caught in the downdraft.
What's the ACB doing? Just out of curiosity.
The old Aurora. Look at this index, though. Like, oh my gosh.
The old Aurora.
Suction power. Well, the new Aurora, the old Aurora. Let's look at all the screens on here. We're going to go to.
I got to tell you, that index that you have right there.
Yeah.
That's very ominous looking. That is predicting.
What do you got, Ed? What do we got here? Give it to us straight, Ed. Well, what do we got? What's going on?
This is what I don't like.
Are we all going to lose our shirts here?
Well,
is it time to buy? Should we sell, buy?
We've breached, I guess this was obvious 2 days ago, but the fact that we're getting below this one here, where we had this great bounce.
Yeah.
Of course, this is the index that you rejigged, didn't you?
Yeah, there was an adjustment, but the adjustment has now been blended in.
It's an index, but it's not a good looking chart. I guess got to say that.
But it's still up over time.
No, but I'm saying
it's a glass half full kind of chart, if you ask me.
It's sort of looking like it's breaking down. I've talked to a pretty big trader on that follows all these things, and he said to me, I'm not going to mention names, and he trades, and I said, what do you think? And he said it's heavy. He said you can feel the heaviness, which
it's still summer. We're still still in the first trimester of summer here.
But I mean, I know. 1 month of summer, right?
Exactly.
We just started.
How many houses were sold up in Muskoka last week?
0.
0?
No, I don't know. How many?
I don't know.
I thought you were going to say 0.
It's a rhetorical question.
Okay.
All right, so let's look at some of the individual stocks on the large cap list. Let's talk about Aurora. So Aurora down a paltry 47 cents.
Put up that Aurora. You know what? I'm going to just point something out here.
Okay, here's the Aurora chart in large format.
You see, if you drew a line here, like this. Yeah, this is
not as bad as the other chart.
No, but it looks
ominous. You don't look happy, Ed.
Fortunately, I don't have a lot of money in cannabis companies.
No.
There's a reason for that. I don't have a lot of money.
Oh. You know what? I think it's time we talk to Alan Brochstein.
Why don't you do that?
Okay.
Why don't we do that?
Let's see if we can get Alan Brochstein up on the screen here. Well, he's clearly having a little bit of stage fright today.
Hey. Up.
So if anybody out there wants to ask Alan hey Alan, how's it going?
There I am.
There you are.
Hi, Alan.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great.
So you can hear us, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Awesome.
Can you see us?
I can see you, the back of your head.
Oh yeah, that's right. If we want to look at Alan, we got to look at that camera.
Oh, there's Alan. Now I see him.
So Ed, Alan, you have not met Ed Milewski before, have you?
No, I've seen Ed. I have not met you. It's nice to meet you, Ed.
Nice to meet you. Ed's a crusty old market guy.
Yeah, I've been around. I'm still here after all these years. I don't know which way to look now.
Covering the cannabis space?
Yeah, he's like covering the cannabis. He's deaf too, by the way. He can't hear it. Sorry, we have a lot of fun with Ed.
I'm deaf in one ear and I can't hear it out of the other.
Let's start with the.
How does it? I was going to just throw out a question here, and sorry to interrupt. But how does it look to you? Does it look like money's exiting, or it's rolling over a bit, doesn't it? Or are you looking at it from a fundamental?
Okay, so first of all, I'm glad you didn't ask me about my headset. I need to invest in some sort of audio equipment. But no, I'm not a video game player. Yeah, the market to me in Canada looks a little toppy. I've been saying that for a while. I think at the same time, the United States is just starting to see a lot of interest out of Canada. So much money's been made over the last few years in Canada, and I don't think that people are necessarily going to sell their Canadian holdings to buy U.S., but at the margin, I think there's a lot of interest. And I saw today GMP Richardson put out a report talking about the opportunity in United States looking a lot better than Canada. This is something I've been hearing a lot, and probably more importantly than just that whole dynamic. I think if you just step back and look what's going on in the United States, things really changed back in April when there was just a whiff of optimism after a lot of pessimism, and that was with the Trump-Gardner kind of agreement. And we don't even know if it's going to play out, but there's optimism over that, and so we're seeing all these deals get funded out of Canada in the United States now. So it's clearly, I think that's an important dynamic for people in Canada to understand that the interest may be shifting south of the border.
What's the market cap of those U.S. listed companies? It's got to be a lot less than the Canadian side, right?
So apples for apples, and it's never exactly the same. So Macintosh apples for Gala or something. it's a lot cheaper in the United States, and it should be, because in the United States, it's federally illegal still. That's one thing. Number two, we have this thing called 280E. And number three, you can't do interstate commerce. And I guess in Canada, you can't really either, apparently, but that's another story. So it should be cheaper in the United States. And I've been saying for a while, it's just way too much cheaper. So to answer your question, I think this is the way to look at it. There are a lot of mom and pop operators out there. And we're just now starting to see the emergence of companies like Acreage Holdings, which I think was on the show in the last couple of days. You know, the ones that have been around for a year have really proven themselves and have made a lot of progress. We're talking about like MPX Bioceuticals and Ianthus and Liberty, Canna Royalty. By the way, some of these are my clients. I'm not trying to show favoritism, and then a bunch of other ones that are starting to prove themselves. But now we're seeing new names. We saw GTI do just exceptionally well. I know Medmen probably wasn't perceived as being a good IPO. It wasn't a true IPO in any event, but the market cap is phenomenal there. And so clearly people are interested. And I think what's interesting to me, somebody who's been watching the market for over 5 years now, if you go back to 2014, there was this huge stigma. And it wasn't about cannabis or marijuana. It was about the OTC. And so I think what happened was the market crashed in 2014 in the United States, and nobody cared about Canada then either. It really wasn't until Justin Trudeau got elected in 2015. And the U.S. market has really been shunned, the OTC market for the most part. And what we've seen happen the last few years has been confidence in the U.S. companies that are listing in Canada. They've proven themselves. Again, we're talking about like Canna Royalty, Ianthus, MPX, and people have made money. They've seen that these companies can raise capital much better than they can on the OTC, and they get research coverage and better liquidity, all these things. And so here we are in 2018. Cory Gardner, the senator who cut this deal with Donald Trump, told everybody it's safe to come swimming, and the pool's very warm and sunny, and we're seeing a lot of deals get done now, and it's just unbelievable to me. I'm so excited, actually.
Hey, Alan, did you watch the Tilray IPO at all?
What? What's Tilray? No, just
Tilray.
Kidding. Yeah, I'm just joking. Of course. So, look, that's another sign, obviously, and it's not really supportive of what I was just talking about. It's the exact opposite, and it actually was very interesting because that's the first time a Canadian company has basically given the middle finger to the Canadian exchanges and gone to the United States. And obviously, that's a one-of-a-kind thing. You're not going to see that happen again because Tilray is one of the big producers in Canada. There aren't any others that aren't public, so you're not going to see that. What you'll see is Aurora and Afria get an additional listing in the United States. They're not going to say goodbye to Canada. But so that was rather interesting. And I think even though it's the exact opposite of what we were just talking about, the U.S. companies going to Canada to get money, which is what's going on, that tells you the same thing, that the investment appetite in the United States is picking up. And it's obvious because that deal, it was upsized, so we don't know on that last 1.35 million shares, how many of those ended up in the hands of Canadians? But we know about 25% of the original deal only, which means 75% of the Tilray deal was bought on the NASDAQ. Right? It could have been Canadians, but it was bought on the NASDAQ, not through the Canadian broker. So I assume that was U.S. demand. And so I think it's pretty awesome. I think it's pretty crazy where that stock's trading right this minute. Not as crazy as yesterday, but still pretty crazy.
Right. Do you think that some of these U.S. valuations, like if you look at Medmen's, come to market with a $2.2 billion valuation, and Tilray comes to market with a $3.3 billion valuation, and Kush Bottles and all these guys have these big beefy valuations. Do you think that's an indication that U.S. investors would prefer to invest in U.S. operations over Canadian ones?
I don't know. There's a home court advantage, clearly, and it took a long time for U.S. investors to warm up to investing in Canadian LPs in general. I watched this for years. I have a lot of subscribers, and they were very reluctant to buy even the OTC tickers. This is just the way it works all the time, almost. People prefer to invest in their own own country. So I think these large market caps are great. It's not necessarily great for the people who buy them at the top, but it's great because it shows you that there's a shortage of good companies in the United States. I mean, I guess you could say the same thing about Canada. The market caps are high. It just shows there's a lot of optimism, and I think that gives a chance for other companies to go public. I mean, in Canada, we've seen, I don't know, 9 in the last 6 or 7 weeks go public. LPs we're talking about, and so I think Canada's pretty much done in terms of how many big stocks there will be in the future. Most of them are probably already public, and they might not be big right now, but they're already public. It's going to get harder and harder. That people don't have the attention span to look at public company number 42 through 50. But in the United States, and I think this is kind of the point GMP Richardson was making, there aren't that many public companies yet. When you consider that the United States is like 9 times, 10 times bigger than Canada, and the industry, it's a lot bigger, and there just aren't that many public companies. And the number of companies in Canada with a market cap in excess of $1 billion US is probably like 5 or something like that, 6. And in the United States, I think there's just 2. So, we'll see what happens, but I think we'll see a lot more of these companies going public. James, didn't you have Acreage on yesterday or recently?
We had Acreage on. What was that? Was it
maybe
about a week ago or so, I guess? And he was on, and they're not gone public yet, but they're going to soon.
Well, they said they are in the fall. They gave a date yesterday, not a date, but an estimate of the fall, which is that tells us something this year. And things always get pushed a little bit, but. What was interesting, they had a press conference yesterday, and I'm not sure how many people were on it, but I was glad I got a chance to participate. And they talked about their acquisition strategy and the needs for capital. And so, Acreage is one of several companies. And some of them, I bet nobody's listening right now has even heard of these companies. They're kind of quiet, just operating quietly. And so the people that have invested in them know, but the general public doesn't know about some of these companies. Or not that much. They're not really, in the limelight at all. They're going public. They can't say no. The valuations they see are very high when they look at GTI, and these companies are all in a land grab right now. They want to be able to go into the new states, and when people sell, they want to sell into something that's really big. And the reason I brought Acreage up because they had an issue, I believe, early on that they were just buying pieces of companies and not control. And I think Ianthus had this to a lesser degree. And one of the things Ianthus did was they went to 100% ownership of everything, and even in Massachusetts. And I think investors really like that. And so I asked Acreage because they don't have any documents out there in the public. And they said that the only one that they don't control is Florida. I think they're in a dozen states with 2 more on the way. And so one of the things they said was that they're going to the people that invested in a certain state's operations where they maybe they had the majority, but they're trying to get 100%. And they're basically, the story is, take our stock, we're going public, and you'll be more diversified. It's a pretty simple story. And these platforms that are emerging, and there's already several that are publicly trading. We've talked about Medmen, we've talked about GTI recently, and some others. I think this is a great time to start studying these companies. It's like Canada all over again. Going back really to 2014 or 15.
Mm-hmm. There's a whole bunch of people on our Facebook and YouTube pages now, and the questions that we see most frequently, especially in the current environment where there's all this blood on the streets, so to speak, is where is all this weakness coming from? What does it mean? And
the weakness in Canada, or what are we talking about?
The weakness generally in all cannabis stocks, in the sector generally.
Yeah, I think it's been more pronounced in Canada, and I think one of the things that happened there was the delay, and it wasn't that big of a delay, but it was a delay on top of another delay. So basically, if you go back, people were thinking it would be legal in April. If you go back to last year, and it got delayed, and then it was supposed to be August or September. Now it's October. I think there are a lot of traders in the space, and time is money. So it's like, take the summer off, come back after Labor Day. Whereas before, if it was going to go live on Labor Day, there was a shorter time. So I think that's a small thing. I think I mentioned earlier that we've seen, I think 9 new public companies, and that's a little bit, dilution in terms of the number of companies out there. If somebody wants to buy a new company, they may have to sell one of their existing holdings. And then we've seen the big IPO, Tilray. That money came from somewhere. But I think there's another point. I mean, I saw some the tea leaves I was reading were basically that the LPs thought their stocks were expensive. I mean, Canopy did that huge convertible note, $48 conversion price. If they were that bullish, they wouldn't have done that. But a bigger one was Afria, that like the eve of the Senate, in what was maybe the most historic moment ever for the cannabis industry. I love those guys at Afria. I know Vic's on your show all the time, but what a terrible signal to have the largest equity offering ever on that day. It was. I think that there's just been a lot of signs that the market needs to cool off a little bit.
Are there
I have one more thing. I'm sorry, just to add, I think there's something actually even more important. I think people have come to the realization that legalization in Canada kind of sucks, quite frankly. I'm not criticizing, but it really does. I mean, I'm going to be in Canada. I could be arrested. This is in August, so it's not going to be legal yet. But what sucks about it is most people like vape pens, and you can't use vape pens for at least a year. A lot of people like edibles. You can't do that. Ontario, a huge province, 25 stores at first for the whole province. It's sad, but it's probably smart to start slow, start low and go slow, whatever they say for edibles. And so I'm not trying to be super critical, but I think the issue is I think people are starting to understand that it's not so great to have the government being the sole buyer like it is in Ontario, and hopefully that'll change. And it's just not as good as it sounded, I would say. But it's going to be good. It's just not so good from day one.
Interesting.
Certainly, I can speak for almost all Ontarians and I think almost all Canadians when I say nobody here is happy about the government being our dealer. And when you compare the range of products and the way in which you can access the products, and for example, I just came back from a week in California. I went to multiple dispensaries. We tried marijuana delivered to our hotel. We went and visited extracts labs. We tried, I didn't try, but we were offered to try shatter.
You observed.
Yeah, but they've got, every single product imaginable is fair game in California. And you can get it almost anywhere. It's like it's so different from where Canada is today. And if you look at the way liquor is sold in Canada and beer is sold, if you want beer in Canada, you got to go to or in Ontario anyways, you got to go to a beer store. And if you want
a grocery store now.
What, we've got beer in grocery stores?
Yes.
This is news to me.
Well, you don't drink beer.
I sure do.
Well, grocery stores carry beer.
I had no idea.
You got to be kidding.
I'm not kidding.
You got to get out of the meat section.
Apparently, I've got to get out of the beer store. That's what I got to do. Yep. Anyways, that's interesting.
It'll get better, James.
Beer and wine. Beer and wine.
Yeah, you get my point, though. We're so used to the government being the sellers of our stuff, and our rules have always been way more uptight than those of the U.S. It was only recently that beer gardens actually allowed beer to be sold on an unrestricted basis, but it's always been a feature of Canadian sort of, let's call it recreational substance use, that the government is like the daddy standing there saying what you can and can't do.
Right. So I think people are just starting to realize that there's going to be glitches between maybe not enough supply. I didn't mention that, but that's something I've been talking about for a while. That the delay is good for that. There'll be more supply, but it's still very undersupplied, most likely at first. If you look at how much money is being lost by these operators, it's clear nobody's hit scale yet. Nobody's making any money on cannabis except by selling shares so far. And if you look at the inventories, they're just not that great. And so I guess the good news is there aren't that many stores anyway. So it's just going to be a slow ramp at first. And, that's the way the medical was. It was very slow to start. And then the doctors started to catch on and the medical program took off. And it'll be the same way. It's going to be great. So I'm not trying to be negative forever on it. But I don't think people understood this point that day one is not as exciting as some might anticipate.
So question that, and I don't know the answer to this, that's why I'm asking the question. What percentage of the Canadian marijuana companies are owned by U.S. investors? Is there a number out there? For instance, if you're an American and you sort of think, well, I can go into Canada through my broker and buy some shares. So is it, would you say it's 20%, or is it, there's got to be some U.S. money involved in this?
There is. I have not ever seen the data, so this is pure speculation. It's I don't know, 20 to 40% U.S. investors, which, you know, there's a lot more U.S. investors, but not that many of them involved. But so that's just an estimate. I've never seen. It's a great question. I've never seen that one studied by anybody.
Would they sell their Canadian holdings to buy more of the U.S. product, like U.S. issuers that are? Yep. Because I think that, you know, they probably want to get around converting money, et cetera, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think when I think about it, it's really more that there's a huge audience of investors in the United States that have never invested. And so a lot of them didn't understand the Canadian thing, didn't know how to buy into it maybe, and they missed out. So now they maybe have a second chance. So that's kind of what I think could fuel the interest in some of these U.S. names. I mean, what you're saying makes sense. There could be some of that too, where people that have made a lot of money in Canada, you know, U.S. investors or Canadian investors that say, the U.S. looks like it's bottomed out, and this is the place to be. Maybe I don't know. I don't think it has to be that way, but there's probably some of that.
Like I don't know about how many, but the two that I've known, the GTI and the Tilray, they were spectacular. I mean, if you couldn't buy it on that, you could have still made a lot of money in the first and second days, because they both doubled, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And we know the way things work. People are going to look at those and they're going to want in on the next one. So it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, probably.
Yeah. So, Alan, you touched on this briefly a short bit ago, and you said, you know, you asked the question, will U.S. investors sell their Canadian stocks to buy U.S. ones as America comes on strong? And I just want to flesh out that discussion a little bit more, because, you know, if you look at the valuations of Canada's unicorn cannabis stocks, of which there are now about 6, you know, by any measure, you would have to say that they're, if not fully valued, they are definitely highly valued. And so one would immediately sort of lean towards the conclusion that there is more upside in stocks that have not been trading that long. And so especially in a market that is just sort of emerging from federal prohibition, you know, or at least that's the sense we're getting, is that it's moving that way, and therefore the market is opening up more. And so I'm thinking, as that happens, might that be more the catalyst that drives more money out of the Canadian market and into the U.S. one, is when you can safely invest in the U.S. without risk of a federal prohibition somehow interfering with your investment experience?
Yep. So like I said, I gave some reasons earlier why there should be a disparity. Traders don't necessarily take the time to fully understand all the risks. And I'd remind everybody, the United States is much riskier. I think traders will look at the charts, you know, let's just pick on Aphria a little bit. Their stock's way down from the highs, and it's pretty close to the recent lows. That's not the kind of thing that attracts traders. The kind of things that attracts traders, I think, is like GTI went up a lot. It's down a little bit on this capital raise, but it'll probably recover. And you start to see that. That's just trader talk. And you could see some of that, just pure technicals, that you can make some money in the U.S. Buying these names, and Canada looks, you know, like it's rolled over. If you want to talk about the valuation, though, I'd remind everybody that Canada is federally legal. This means a lot. It means that you can do these clinical trials and go after the pharmaceutical market, which is huge. If you listen to Bruce Linton talk, and I know you do, James, he's been on your show, he's been on with Kramer, the pharmaceutical opportunity for displacement is just huge. And U.S. companies don't really have that, and Canadians do. And then there's also, just in general, the whole international market. U.S. companies are precluded from participating in most international markets. The only thing they can do is license their brands. They can't actually benefit in the building of businesses. They're like in Germany, they were cut out. If you had anything to do with the U.S. illegal company, you can't do that. So Canada does have these international opportunities. I would argue at a second level that it's expensive to pursue these international opportunities. It's not like it's free money. You have to, invest in building cultivation in Denmark or what have you. So it's not riskless and it's not free. So I think, look, I can understand why people are going to do this. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Some people will say, hey, I made all this money in Canada. Canada looks pretty tired here. I'm going to move into the United States, which has a lot of interest right now, and I'll come back to Canada right before legalization. I mean, that's I can see people coming up with that, but I think the bigger issue is for the United States companies is to get U.S. investors that have never bought a cannabis stock excited. And, people like to invest in companies that they know or trust. And, there are a lot of companies like Medmen. I think that's one of the reasons they've done well. They've built a big brand. When I say they've done well, their market cap is so high because people associate with, they see their Medmen store, they can go touch it and feel it, buy it, whatever they want to do. And I think there's going to be a lot more of this in the United States where we get cannabis investment naive people who now get it. It's okay to invest in a Canadian company. You just have to learn how to do it. And it's okay. Look, you can go look at these charts. A year ago, these stocks were like Ianthus was at $1.70 and then it's at $7.50 Canadian. So that's what people like. They like to buy when things are going up.
Alan, let's talk a bit about, we've talked about Canopy always as sort of the bellwether in the Canadian market as the largest, the first, etc. But tomorrow we're expecting Aurora to announce the conclusion of the takeover of MedReleaf, which will make Aurora the largest company by market cap in the world for
sales
in the cannabis space. And so I'm curious as to, yet their stock is selling off dramatically today.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, do you think that's because people are taking this last opportunity to sell MedReleaf at the premium that it's at before they're actually having to take the conversion on the Aurora shares? And secondly, it's a long-winded question, I apologize. Secondly, do you think that Aurora's new status as the largest company by market cap in the world will represent an inherent advantage to it in terms of attracting new investors that has formerly been occupied by Canopy as the largest company in the world?
Yeah, so first of all, I think for MedReleaf, this is a very valid concern. We saw this with Canamed. And Aurora stock did very poorly in the back half of March after Canamed. And this is not my area of expertise, but I can look back and see what happened there. You have a lot of people that will be able to sell stock that haven't been able to sell because they won't be restricted like they were before. The positions won't be so large relative to the float. It's a more liquid security. So we saw that after Canamed. The people that forced the deal, they weren't locked up, and I don't think, and the stock went down a lot. So I think the weakness today, so there is some of that, and I think the weakness today, it's not just that. It's not like just Aurora's going down. The whole market seems to be going down, and this has been going on for a few weeks. We had a nice little bounce, I guess, yesterday, but and maybe Friday as well. But it generally right now, I'm pretty cautious on Canada, not for any reason except that the charts don't look that great. And so to your second question, I don't know why people have to do this either or, like, oh, Aurora's the best or Canopy's the best, or best. I hate both of them. I don't get that. So your question really is, do people have an alternative now that Aurora and MedReleaf and Canamed combined is now bigger than Canopy? I don't think that even matters. Both those stocks have been highly liquid. Both those companies have raised capital immensely and at progressive levels. Both those companies check every single box that anybody could want from a company. Doesn't mean their valuation's right, but they're multiple platforms, they're global, they have the extracts, they got it all. So doesn't mean they're the best investments, by the way. But so I don't really see this as being negative for Canopy, if that's where you're going with it.
Okay, great. All right. Well, Alan, that's been fantastic. We've taken 30 minutes of your time, more or less. We don't want to wear out our welcome with you. And as usual, I really appreciate your participation, and as does our audience. And we hope to come back to you often.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Nice meeting you.
Now, there's a guy who knows his stuff.
Where's he from?
He's a Texan. He lives in, I believe it's Houston.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I know Alan is from Texas. But yeah, he's an American.
And he was born in the States. He's not a Canadian.
No, he's an American. Yeah. He's the first chartered financial analyst in the United States to cover the sector in Canada, and so he's kind of like the first CFA who actually would put his name on things. And he has an investment publication called 420invest. That's a subscription based at 420invest.com, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's
420.
420. It's only 3:58, Ed. You're going to have to wait 22 more minutes.
It'd be nice to know what companies in that space are going public. Like, I mean, there's got to be an easy way to figure this out. For instance, we saw Tilray go public, and you could have made a lot of money. I mean, you could buy all you want, you can sell all you want.
Well, I really. So I mean, that's how it looks, but they issued 9 million shares on their IPO out of 120 million shares.
Right.
Of those shares, 78% were bought by American banks. So could you have bought that private placement?
No.
Could you have bought the IPO?
No, you could have bought it in the market, though.
In the market, after it was already going from $17 to $28 through to $32.
No, but I'm saying you could have bought it at $20 the first day.
True.
That's what all, for instance, a lot of traders, and he talked about the motivation of a trader, which is totally different than an investor.
Right.
Like they want momentum. They don't want to see, the problem with speculators and traders is when they look at the charts, and I'm not an expert, but I've looked at a lot of them.
I thought you were an expert.
Well, I guess I am.
What are you doing here then?
I am. I'm an expert. Yeah.
Come on.
I'm an edpert.
You're
not
an edpert.
Expert. I'm an edpert.
Boy, that's almost sounding like pervert.
Jeez. The point I'm trying to make is that traders looking at these charts, they don't get a warm, fuzzy feeling. They'd rather buy a stock that's closer to its highs because
at least it's green. At least the chart is green.
Yeah. No red light, please.
Yeah.
But and we saw it with GTI. GTI had a spectacular move. It doubled.
Yep.
And there's probably going to be more of them, especially if you can find out like ones that come out with not a lot of shares, like we saw with Tilray.
Yeah.
But now, just help me out here. Is Tilray is the Canadian company?
Tilray is, well, it's a Canadian company. It's based in Nanaimo, but Tilray is exclusively funded by U.S. private equity investors from Privateer Holdings, which is the founder of PayPal, Peter Thiel,
right,
and numerous others luminaries.
Well, what if you said you're crossing the border and you say I'm with Tilray, and
he'd get well, if he's going back to the U.S. or what? He's an American. It's all good.
Okay, well, what if he's a Canadian?
If he's Canadian, he'll be barred from entering the United States for life.
But there's got to be Canadians from BC that want to go to the States there, and they're afraid to go now.
They are simply, well, they're realizing that caution is preferable to.
So no more trips to Florida.
Well, you just don't tell them what you're going there for. You don't tell them.
What if they find out? They're probably going down the sheets right now.
In the case of Sam Znaimer, in the news
that's
piece
Moses'
that we saw,
brother. Did you know that?
Yes, I did. That he mentioned in the piece that he felt he had been targeted in an advanced basis, and that they knew he was coming, and they knew he was an investor in U.S. companies, and that's how that unfolded. And he was targeted to make an example to Canadians.
Investor in U.S. companies or U.S. Canadian companies with U.S. assets?
Both are accurate.
That's what I'm having a hard time getting my head around.
No, well, so if you're a U.S. operating Canada and you're listed in Canada, you're a Canadian company or you're a U.S. company listed in Canada.
There was a piece on CNN today, or BNN, with a U.S. securities lawyer.
Who's that?
Yeah, I don't know. Some outfit that claims to.
No, didn't they get bought by Bloomberg or something? Anyways, guess they couldn't make a go of it in the Canadian news space. No, just kidding. Oh, did I just take a swing at BNN? Oh, stab. That's all right. Nobody who watches BNN watches us anyways.
No, I don't.
We're in a different league, Ed. We're in a completely different.
We're in a league of our own.
We're in a league of our own. Anyways.
Okay. It's fascinating.
So what did you think of Alan's discourse there? I thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, you know, he's obviously looking at it
from an American perspective.
You know, the thing about the U.S., which is mind-boggling, and I haven't spent a lot of time there, but I have spent some time because I was involved with ICTV, you know, helping them to get listed in Canada. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of money in the. I mean, you know, there's a
lot of money in the U.S.
A lot of money in the U.S. Like.
Yeah, you know, but the thing you got to remember about that money is it's all fabricated from an imaginary debt that will never be paid. So people like to think that the U.S. is the most prosperous nation in the world, but you have to remember they're the most indebted nation
bankrupt
in the world.
Yeah.
So if anybody were to call that debt, you know, well, unfortunately they also have the biggest military in the world, which is the way to keep anybody from calling your debt.
Yeah, and someone's asset, someone's liability is someone's asset.
Well, not always.
No, well, it is kind of.
Well, you know.
You owe money, you owe it to the bank. I mean, assets, yeah, it's all tied in. Like if all the debt gets eliminated, everybody's assets get eliminated.
Yeah, right. But a debt exists in the assumption that there is a counterparty who can pay. If there's no counterparty who can pay, then both the asset and the liability are actually liabilities.
Well, the asset
because the guy thinks he's going to collect on something he's never going to collect on, and the debtor knows that he's got a debt that he's never going to pay. So it's actually in reverse. But we're going off on a tangent.
I know we're going off on a tangent.
We're going off on a tangent here.
Let's
Ed,
not do that.
Do you know? Have you heard about the Bullet ID Corp? Bullet ID Corp. This is going to be interesting for people looking for a way to diversify away from cannabis now. And because Midas Letter is not just about cannabis, no. We're looking for any new emerging company that is going to make some money for our viewers. And this company, we're going to bring it up in a second. I had this conversation just a short while ago with Greg Sullivan, the CEO of the Bullet ID Corp that does laser etching onto bullets to create an inventory control system for ammunition that is tracked on the blockchain.
It didn't register until you mentioned the...
Tell you what, let's watch this quick interview and then tell me what you think.
Laser etching on bullets.
On bullets. Hey, welcome back to Midas Letter Live. My guest this segment is Greg Sullivan. He's the CEO of the Bullet ID Corporation. Greg, thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure, James.
So, Greg, the Bullet ID Corporation is a private company that's development stage. You've got a financing underway, and this financing is to achieve what exactly in terms of the Bullet ID business model?
Right, yeah. We currently have a private placement that we're doing. We're looking to complete production. Mm-hmm. There's two components to it. There's a hardware component and a software. We're at the point in development now where we have to bring the two together to work in unison. So the proceeds, some of it will go towards completing that technology, which is a relatively short time frame, and then really to market the technology itself to the world.
And what exactly is the technology?
So basically what it does, it uses barcoding to serialize ammunition, and that allows manufacturers to monitor the production, use, transfer, and destruction of ammunition, and also governments. So actually any agency that has an inventory of ammunition, you can from end to end track it. The really big advantage is for governments in real time, they could see where all their issuance of ammunition is at any point in time. So it's really kind of a groundbreaking thing for the governments to have that, to know where all the resources are in real time.
Mm-hmm. So each round has a unique identifier on it.
Correct.
And that round is tracked in an inventory control system on a computer, in the cloud.
Yes, it's done. We're using blockchain technology. As we see more governments are getting comfortable with blockchain, they're migrating to it. So we want to kind of be ahead of the curve. Mm-hmm. There is a security aspect that goes with it that kind of instills confidence with the end user. So we're using blockchain as in our software. But yes, it really is. It's creating a database for that customer to be able to control from start to finish where their ammunition is. For manufacturers, from the point of inception of the round right through to the end user, they can track it. If there's a recall issue or a safety issue, it gives them a better idea of where their ammunition is. And then for governments to know as an issue to their soldiers or enforcement officers in the field. At any one point, they'll know where it is, and then at what point they have to, if it expires, they have to bring it back for reissuance or destruction.
Mm-hmm. And so why are government agencies so interested in an inventory control system where the old one has done what it's done for the last 50, 100 years?
Right. I mean, especially the world's changing, especially when it comes to accountability. We're seeing a lot of these countries, especially ones that are funded by, some of the G8 countries for their military hardware. They want accountability. So when they issue ammunition to their soldiers or to their officers, they want to know that's staying within the government use. If all of a sudden some cartridges are found at a human rights violation and they can track it back to a government issuance, then they'll know who to hold accountable. And a lot of that comes in because they get funded by some of the G8 countries. They want to have that accountability to ensure that they're doing everything they can to keep that within the government domain.
Interesting. So is the model then to etch bullets with these unique identifiers and then to charge a price per bullet for the extra technology that's added, or are you going to sell the machines? How does it work? Yeah,
there'll be a couple streams of revenue. I mean, obviously one for the manufacturers. There's many manufacturers that are small to medium, but they do millions of rounds, like tens of millions of rounds a year. So in a soft market, I mean, it's very cyclical, the ammunition market. It goes from being very robust to declining and going back to being robust. And generally it's driven by American politics. So you don't want to put a big capex on a small manufacturer. So we looked at creating technology that was inexpensive enough that we could upfront the cost, put it in and take a royalty from every round that's made. It might be a fraction of a cent up to pennies or 5, 10 cents depending on the size and cost of the round. So we saw that as the best model to to penetrate the market. And then on the software side for governments, that they will be purchasing that'll be a standalone system. For the manufacturers, it'll work in unison, and the financial model will be such that it will cover both hardware and software. But there's kind of two streams of revenue for the hardware and software, and then for software alone.
Okay, so what is the size of your market globally, assuming you were able to saturate it at a reasonable rate?
Right. The market's huge. It's hard to really gauge the markets. I always tell people, people saying Canada, there's not many guns and all that. Right now we have almost 2.5 million people with possession acquisition licenses. Canadians buy between 700,000 to 1 billion rounds a year. There's 12 to 16 million guns in this country. 5,000 retailers are involved in selling guns and ammunition. So even in Canada, it's a good-sized market. Take that globally, it's massive. It's really hard to gauge because some countries don't track sale of guns and ammunition. But you look at the United States, which consumers buy they sell about 12 billion rounds a year between government and the consumers. So the market just in North America is very, very, very robust. Now the governments, we're seeing a lot of foreign governments that have come to the table with interest to have that accountability and tracking of their issuance of ammunition. So that alone, even as a standalone, is going to be a big source of our revenue.
So is there an application for this technology in the retail side?
There could be down the road with adaptation by the manufacturer. I mean, it could come down to a micro level where on your smartphone you have the app and you can look at your bullet and see what the data manufacturer. Because there is an expiry date. Gunpowder, generally say about 10 years depending on how it's stored. But some shooters, down the road, if they're buying serialized ammunition for a long time, they'll know exactly when the data manufacturer is on that. So there could definitely be a in the future, a consumer model.
Sure. What's your background? How do you come to be at the head of this organization?
I was I have some military and law enforcement background, senior levels of management and law enforcement. I developed involved in developing some ammunition systems back in early 2000s. Brought it to market. Then I was involved in running an ammunition company, so I got to see what it takes and really how delicate the market is, but again, really how big the market is globally.
Sure. So what's the timeline on this? You're at the point where you're just deploying this now. How soon until revenue starts to happen significantly, and what's the window look like to profitability for the company?
Yeah, I mean, we've actually sold our first system already to a manufacturer in the United States. We hope to have that implemented into their existing manufacturing line about November. And then following that, we have actually a very a large pipeline already, 20, 25 foreign governments that we're talking to that are interested in this technology. So we really see Q1, Q2 of 2019 as our breakout. But really, we're not, it's not like a pharmaceutical play where we're talking 10 years from now.
Right. The
customers are there and waiting. The demand is there. It's been there for a while. So we're the first company that can really meet the demand on a realistic basis.
So I'm assuming then there aren't other companies out there doing this?
Not that we know of. I mean, they've really tried. The industry has tried several times to serialize bullets. They've always tried on the projectile or the bullet itself. And again, you've got to be very careful with ballistic flight. You've got to be careful, generally when a bullet hits down, it fragments, so you lose that. So it hasn't been successful. And a lot of it's been done for the reason of gun control. This is an inventory management system. So we want the manufacturer to be able to know, and the best course of action is putting it on the cartridge. And with the system we have a patent pending system to put it on. It'll really, it'll be, I think, a market disruptor.
Fascinating, Greg. Okay, well, we'll follow with interest. Obviously, I'm an investor in the company by way of disclosure, and so love to see what's going on, and we'll keep coming back to you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, James.
So what did you think about that, Ed? Bullet ID.
My only concern is what's to stop someone else from doing it? Like, how do they regulate that?
Well, we'll go shoot them, obviously.
Go shoot them.
Exactly.
And we'll
know who the shooter is because the ID will be on the bullet.
So will all bullets now have be encrypted? Is that the idea?
Well, I think the point that the main point that Greg was trying to make is that the business model is not about public safety and the fact that anonymized ammunition in the hands of the public will come to an end. Even though certain states like Illinois and California are starting to move towards legislation prohibiting non-serialized ammunition in the hands of the public or available for sale in any retail environment. He's telling me that, yes, that is a feature of it. They will end anonymized ammunition, which will make it tougher for people to buy ammunition who are not licensed to do so, which I think, in view of the events that have been happening in the world recently, that is a good thing, NRA notwithstanding. Now, but the great thing I love about the Bullet ID is, A, they've already got a machine sold to a government agency. They've got 25 more machines that they're in negotiation with the various government agencies. This is all forward-looking, and therefore I'm speculating. I own the stock.
This is a private company?
A private company now. Currently doing a $3 to $5 million raise with Canaccord. They're going to raise money to build the machines to deliver, to fulfill the orders. So it's a great, fast-moving story, and this is why I wanted to bring it to the audience.
But people that are nefarious people aren't going to want to buy bullets that are, they're going to want to buy bullets that aren't encrypted.
If it's illegal to possess bullets that are not serialized visibly, then if you're in possession of bullets, you are in fact committing a crime before you've gone and shot a bunch of innocent people. So arguably, it's a step in the right direction, because what are you doing with either bullets that have had the numbers filed off, or non-serialized, or that you made yourself when it's illegal? I mean, I gotta say, I'm not an NRA card-carrying guy. In fact, I think those guys are mostly, basically delinquents, because they're not allowed to. They're not willing to allow anything that allows for better identification of people who get guns illegally, which is just so stupid in my view.
You know who was the big actor that was? Charlton Heston, I think, was the big NRA. What did he say? On my cold...
Over my cold, dead body, you'll have to pry this gun out of my hands.
My cold, dead hand.
Yeah, well, the guy's an actor, so he's obviously in his later years, he didn't realize that he was
He
no
was
longer a cowboy.
Moses.
Well, Moses, yeah. Did you see the bit with Bowling for Columbine, Michael Moore's documentary, where he walks in and Charlton's all senile and everything, and he's like, come on in and have some tea, and Michael's just taking advantage of the guy and asking him all kinds of questions he's not really capable of answering, and that was supposedly...
Probably could never answer even when he was younger.
Yeah, I know. Anyways.
It's interesting. People make a lot of money in a selected field like acting, and they think that maybe they know, maybe that allows them to pass judgment on...
Well, they act like somebody who knows what they're talking about, so next thing they think they are the one who knows what they're talking about.
They're good actors.
They're great. They're so good, they fool themselves.
I know. Well, remember when they were interviewing Ronald Reagan, and Ronald Reagan was talking about something that happened to him in his life, but it was actually something that happened to him in a movie. And he actually made it sound like this happened to me in real life, but it wasn't. It was something that he quoted from a movie, one of his lines.
No, that is scary.
Well, it is.
That is scary.
It is.
I want to say hello to our viewers in Texas today. Andrew Kittle is here today. He's a regular viewer. Why can I only see? Let's see, who else is here? Ben Tavares. Oh, Ben Tavares is asking. I think he's asking us. He might have meant this question for Alan, but he's wondering, what are some of your favorite Canadian small and mid-cap plays with potential large upside in the cannabis sector?
In the cannabis space. Wow. I would have been able to answer that a lot easier 8 months ago.
Well, 8 months ago, it would have been easy. You would have been right no matter what you picked, pretty much.
I know. So what am I saying there?
I think I got to say it, and I know I see people in the comments section promoting Marican, but I think that's one of the ones where I'm watching Ben Ward, the CEO, go do his thing and spend that money, and he's building distribution, he's building supply chain,
right,
and he's doing it in spite of, under a cloud due to some regulatory questions earlier on in the timeline. I think that's one that's got some compressed value in it. I think that probably one of the best ones with compressed value in it is probably JWC, James E. Wagner Cultivation Corporation. Right. I mean, if you were to listen to the CEO, Nathan Woodward, I mean, this is a guy who's as techie comes, and they're one of the only companies growing aeroponically. They've got a deal with Canopy. Canopy owns 15% of the shares. So, there's one that's been beaten up after its go public debut.
Where is it now?
Well, Ed, the great thing about us, the thing I love about watching us is we can pull up a chart and not speculate, but actually look. So let's do that. And survey says, oops, that's the wrong thing. Actually, here's the other great thing you can do on Midas Letter. You can just go midasletter.com, back this up, put in the symbol. What is the symbol? JWCA. And what will happen? You're going to get taken to the newsroom page for James E. Wagner. So it's still hovering around 67 cents, which is where it's closed for the last 5 sessions. The volume's a little light. Not much news.
And how many shares?
How many shares out? Do we have an idea on how many shares out there in the investment banking department?
Looks like about 100 million.
John doesn't want to participate in our conversation. That's fine.
Shares out,
we'll
87.6 million.
Yeah, but these things are never accurate.
Well, you know what?
Oh, it is right. Okay, so we have it firm. 87 million shares out.
Okay.
So this is a stock that came down from a debut at $1.15. Arguably lots of compressed value there. That's one.
That G-Tech just came out a while ago at $1.
G-Tech.
50.
Yeah, another one that got beaten up punched out after its IPO. Not really an IPO.
92 up a penny. There you go.
Okay, so it's hanging in there. It's out on G-Tech.
I think about 90 million.
Yeah, same again.
85. Yeah, there you go.
All right. So those are a few of my favorites. There's another one. There's a deal that was just announced with a company called Heritage Cannabis. Symbol is CANN. We'll pull up that chart. Now I have to disclose that I own about 700,000 shares of this. So obviously I'm talking my book here, but the reason
which one is it?
It's actually it's called Heritage Cannabis, and they're just in the process. They announced this deal here. It's not the headline, but they've announced a deal to acquire Canacure. And Canacure is a company that has a 122,000 square foot former GMP plant down in Fort Erie in the free trade zone right on the border with the United States. It also has an option to purchase 3.4 million square feet of greenhouse in Leamington, Ontario. So if this deal goes through, chances are Heritage will be a buy, though it has the ugliest share structure you'll ever see in the industry. It's
but it looked like it had a little pop the other day.
It had a pop because this deal was coming.
Okay.
So, so it has the potential to be an opportunity. There's the little bump, but the shares out, it's going to have like 200 million shares out. So maybe they'll roll it back and then we'll have something. They did a whole bunch of financings at 6 and 8 cents. So it's not a great deal for the shareholders of Canacure, but it's okay. At least Canacure is going to go be public then, and maybe we can salvage something out of it. Let's see, other ones in the small cap space that are a steal of a deal. What else do you like? Do you like Valens Grow? VGW. Now this is a company that is a client of GFN, a related company, so we have to disclose that.
Yeah.
It's a company that's sort of not participated in the upside move that was a result of the announcement of legalization. And I think it's largely because Valens Grow is a bit of a misunderstood story in that they are strictly focused on creating extracts. And nobody has figured out how to value a company that only does extracts. And what people fail to understand is that they also grow. So they've got a deal with Canopy to take Canopy's sort of shake, I guess as we called it, or excess biological material, and turn it into extracts. So, in terms of the company's business, it's looking great. There's a whole bunch of shareholders behind the scenes that have clearly lost faith, and that's where the selling's coming from. But that's one I think that could have some compressed value in it. Another one that I really like, and I'm going to, again, now this company is a client of the GFN division, so technically we're compromised on that. Trading at 86 cents. Now we went to visit their operation in Oakland, Jetty Extracts. The deal is not closed, but CanX is in the process of taking over Jetty Extracts. We shot a great video at their facility, and when we publish that video, it's going to be something really cool. But Jetty is available in 600 dispensaries across California. And of all the products that we collected in California, probably the biggest selection of products was from Jetty Extracts. They've got some 86% concentrate, 86% THC, which again, I did not try.
That's like 80 proof in alcohol, right?
It's going to knock your block off.
80 proof to 100 proof.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's for the kids. I say this, so this is the stuff for the kids.
Oh.
Yeah, but anyways, yeah. But they're not the underage kids. I'm not advocating for underage children to smoke weed, even though I started smoking it while I was 12 years old, and look how screwed up I am. I mean, there's evidence right there that nobody should do that.
This story here, it says here, there's one story underneath the mirror. Canopy Growth Corp technical bounce sparks sector rebound. Who? Ben Smith. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Who wrote that?
So Ben is technical in his commentary, and so all his stuff is technical in nature. Whereas I am fundamental in nature, and so most of my writing is fundamental. Although I have not been writing much lately because I've been too busy blabbing on this show.
Yeah.
And we're making a documentary film. Anyways, what else we got here, Ed? It's 4:26. We haven't visited the news. Should we talk about the news of the day in the cannabis space? Does anybody want to hear? Who wants to hear the news? Put up your hand. Let's see. I'm going to watch the. No, we don't want to look at. Let's see. How many people are here? 10 here. Okay. Let's see on the 31. Okay. Well. We're going to talk about what's happening in the news today in the cannabis sector. Friday Night Inc. CSE listed TGIF and its subsidiary Infused Manufacturing announced the receipt of an industrial hemp handler conditional certificate. What does that mean? It allows the company to move forward with its proposed hemp processing facility in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, why would somebody want to grow hemp? That implies low THC. Well, because it also implies low-cost CBD as an ingredient, and so arguably that's going to give them a low-cost input source for CBD. The company announced on June 6th that it was going to that its newly purchased production building would house a separate CBD isolate lab to process hemp biomass into CBD extracts. Hello, CBDs is where it's all at in the medicinal space. Harvest One Cannabis, trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol HVT, through its wholly owned subsidiary Satapharm AG, reported positive results from the completed Phase 2 clinical trials undertaken by Phytotech Therapeutics using their CBD capsules. The completed trial evaluated the safety of oral administration of Satapharm CBD capsules as an adjunctive treatment. Ianthus Capital, one of our favorites, trading on the CSE under IAN, announced that their wholly owned subsidiary Sativa Medical, that's not spelled sativa as in cannabis sativa, it's Citiva, C-I-T-I-V-A. Oh, so clever, so clever.
A little play on words there.
A little play on words. Sativa Medical began construction on a 40,000 square foot medical cannabis facility in Mid-Orange State Correctional Facility, former Mid-Orange State Correctional Facility in Warwick, New York. Boy, I thought for a second there that they were going to actually grow a production plant in a federal penitentiary.
Well, they certainly have an audience for their product.
Free labor. Captive audience.
I'll work for some pot.
We'll work for weed.
Yeah, work for weed.
Anyways, this facility is supposedly going to perpetuate, or is going to enable perpetual harvesting with an estimated yearly production of 2,400 kilograms of medical cannabis. Oh, I like the sound of that. Growing weed in a formal correctional facility.
Emerald Health has had a rough go.
Emerald Health has had a rough go. Well, they got bypassed in the BC Lottery Corporation, or the BC Liquor Control License Lottery, which, you know, I still will maintain that when this stock recovers, it will turned out to be a good thing for the company when you look at the balance sheets, because they're going to find non-BC or non-government offtake partners in BC and elsewhere in Canada, and you'll see that will end up being a good thing. Also frees them up to concentrate on their medical therapeutic side, which is what they're all about anyways. In other news, Emerald Health today, trading on the symbol EMH on the TSX Venture, joined the host of other companies in signing a supply agreement with the British Columbia Liquor Distribution Branch. Okay, so now they are in there.
Wow.
If you can't beat them, join them, I guess. Supply agreement references 1,086 kilograms of cannabis products, which aligns their production ramp up well along. Okay, well, so they
yeah.
Okay, that's the last time I defend Emerald.
I can't help but feel that, you know, the news is sort of falling on deaf ears. Do you get that feeling like, you know, the market's not, you know, people are going to be looking at their portfolios if they're loaded in marijuana stocks, feeling a little yucky.
Yucky, like they got some on them. They got it on them. Aphria provided an update to yesterday's announced plan to divest its equity investments in Liberty Health Sciences. A little clarity here for everybody. Aphria is amending its put and call agreement pertaining to its sale of shares in Liberty and intends to repurchase the shares if and when U.S. federal laws change. Aphria also agreed to pay the group of buyers $480,000 in cash in exchange for a standstill, whereby the group will not sell the newly acquired shares for 18 months from the date of purchase. They're talking about the Servia family. So basically, what does this mean? This is basically...
What does it mean?
It means that Aphria is stating in no uncertain terms that Liberty Health is their U.S. play, and while they are divesting themselves of shares, they are still maintaining control of the U.S. play through this put and hold arrange, or put and sell or call arrangement.
Put and call.
And they've also put and call. It's like button your lip. Also, obviously, they've got one of their largest shareholders who's doing the off-taking to lock up their shares for 18 months from the date of purchase, basically aligning the interests of some of the larger shareholders with those of Aphria, which is uniformly to reacquire Liberty Health when U.S. law allows and Canadian regulators allow Canadian listed companies to hold U.S. assets on senior exchanges in Canada, which is still,
I'm astounded by how much you know about this stuff.
Well, it's because I read this stuff, and these convoluted structures are a direct result of the regulatory foo-for-ah going on, because one exchange will allow X, and Y. The other exchange will only allow X, Y, and Y. The U.S. exchange won't allow any of this, unless, of course, it's Canadian, in which case it's allowed. But if your investors come to the country, we're going to throw you out of the country and bar you for life. So, it's staring at all this stuff day in and day out, where you're trying to make sense of it and trying to keep it all straight in your head, because they're also changing on a daily basis, that, it's like you got to keep your eye on the ball, or, next thing you know, you don't know what you're talking about, which I fully plan to happen to me in no time at all. Anyways, another one of our favorite ones to drag over the coals is FSD Pharma, symbol huge.
Is it, tell me, it's 15 and a half, 16, what is it?
Well, you want to go have a look at the, let's see.
I want to see if it...
sometimes we go look at this chart, and you got to say that these guys are doing all right, because their last financing round was at 9 cents. Here we go. Let's take a look. Let's punch in that symbol. Huge! Because it's huge! 16 cents. Look at
volume, 4.86 million. Not trading 100 million a day anymore.
Yeah, but 5 million shares. I mean, they got 1.3 billion shares outstanding. I gotta say, I'm gonna say this with a straight face, but bravo boys. It's a monstrosity. The guys are in at 9 cents. They were able to sell at 18 cents, unless the hold is still on. I don't know, because exactly. You're doing 100% win after like 5 months of investment. You gotta hand them the credit. That's okay. Now, for any new investors coming in at 16 cents, they're also doing some pretty smart partnerships. So, these guys came to our marketing division and tried to hire us. We turned them down because we're nervous about the structure. And so they're not a client. We didn't take any money from them. I didn't participate in the 9-cent round. I just got to say, I'm kind of pleasantly surprised at the rabbit they've managed to pull out of the hat here.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyways.
The proverbial rabbit.
Rabbit out of the hat. Anyways, so FSD put out news today. Do you want to hear what their news was?
FSD?
FSD. Yeah. Pharma. That's huge. In case you're wondering.
Was the news?
That's their nickname. Huge. They announced today that their strategic partner, Cannara Biotech, closed their $17.66 million common share equity financing. FSD is a significant shareholder of Cannara and has applied for a second site license at the Cannara facility. I don't know where the Cannara facility is. Here's another one that's...
maybe it's in Cannara.
That's probably... No. LGC Capital Limited, trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol LG, announced that their investee company, Global Canna Labs, has now received its Tier 3 cultivation license from the Jamaican Cannabis Licensing Agency, MMEN. The license allows the company to cultivate organic medical cannabis at its 270,000 square foot facility in Montego Bay, Jamaica.
I've been to Montego Bay.
Did you smoke any cannabis there?
Yes.
Was it Jamaican?
C.
C?
Yeah,
they don't speak.
they don't say C over there.
No. They're not Spanish speaking.
They say Simon. I told you.
There are Rasta. There's a heavy Rasta contingent there.
Yeah.
But all Jamaicans are not Rastas.
No.
And all Rastas are not Jamaican. Something to bear in mind. A lot of people make these sweeping generalizations in their own heads, and that's the basis of racism right there. So anyways, GCL commenced planting 8,000 seedlings for its first full cycle of growth, which it anticipates harvesting Q4 2018. Delta 9 Cannabis, TSX Venture, symbol NINE, confirms it will be applying for a license to open more cannabis retail outlets in the province of Manitoba as part of the second phase of the retail expansion announced yesterday by the Manitoba government. Another company we've talked to before, Wildflower Brands, CSE, listed under the symbol SUN, announced they've signed an LOI for the acquisition of Evolver Holdings Corp. Evolver is a privately held company in New York with a holistic health community of 3.2 million Facebook followers.
How many companies do you think are listed in the marijuana space in Canada? Would you know the answer to that?
How many
companies, how many issuers are there in the cannabis space in Canada?
How many issuers are there in how many publicly traded cannabis companies are there?
Okay, say it that way.
Well, at this point, Ed, let's see.
Is there 50 or is there 150? I don't know.
Well, I think, let's see, there's 120 licensees in Health Canada. 120.
Yeah, but are they all public?
I don't know. Cam, if you're watching, can you give us a quick count on how many publicly traded, anybody in the production department can tell us how many total number of publicly traded cannabis companies in Canada? We'll have this information for you in just a second. Or if any audience member can tell us, that's always, let's go look at the audience, see what they're saying. How are we doing here on the audience? We're up to, well, we've still got lots of people watching. You don't have to dread to be Rasta. Okay. Chris
Really?
West. What do you think of RQB, Uncle James? Chris is my nephew?
Come on. I was going to say...
The family is tuned in. Oh no.
Are you related?
Well, I'm not related to all West, just like all Rastas are not Jamaican. All Wests are not related to me.
No.
But yes. Okay. Jeff Shee wants to ask about Suniva. Jeff, give us 2 secs. We'll get to Suniva. Does anybody in our research or production department able to tell us how many public companies that are publicly traded in the cannabis space in Canada? No, not yet. Okay. Dr.
Another question.
What?
I was going to say, how many companies are slated or slotted to be public?
Slated or slotted? Slotted? How many can...
That's what I was
thinking.
thinking.
You mean how many... Well, I don't know. That's like saying...
Like, in other words, is there going to be more competition for that investor? They're going to keep coming, but...
The wave has just begun. There's going to be... you mark my words. If we look at the uranium industry in 2008, there were 4 companies exploring for uranium in the junior sector. Or sorry, in 2005. By 2006, there were 100. And by 2008, at the peak of the exploration, the boom in exploration stocks, there were over 400 uranium companies. 400. You know, if you had a Geiger counter making one little tick, that's it, you're a uranium company. Yeah, that's... So the same thing's going to happen in the cannabis space. Because the valuations aren't going to go anywhere.
But maybe there's already 400 companies.
No, there's not 400. Well, there are 400 companies, but there are not 400 publicly traded ones in Canada. Okay. There's probably, I'm going to say, no more than 100 listed across all U.S. exchanges. Most of those on the pink sheets, which nobody wants to step in that. And, you know, there's a handful. You've got, 3 companies now on the NASDAQ. You've got Kronos Group, Tilray, and you know who else is applying for a listing on NASDAQ? Namaste. You know Namaste, Sean Dollinger?
Namaste,
Yeah, these guys started at 60 cents. I found that interesting.
Where are
Everybody's
they now?
asking us about SNN, Ed.
SNN?
SNN, Suniva. Suniva Health with Tony Hollers, the CEO. Suniva is the guys from ID Biomedical, which was formerly a billion-dollar company. So they went public. They actually achieved a $400 million valuation almost, and they didn't even have a property. I mean...
Where is it now?
Let's go see. This is what I love about watching us, Ed.
Yeah.
If you want to go look up a stock, I know I'm repeating myself. What? Am I repeating myself? Did I repeat myself? MidasLetter.com/SNN. Just punch in the symbol. That's all you got to do. You're gonna get the news.
That's Canex.
And soon it's going to be real time. We're looking at giving away real time quotes here, but in the meantime, Suniva 605.
Look at this thing. Now that, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's talk about Suniva.
Yeah, that doesn't look.
Looks like.
You know what? This. When you see this, and then then it makes a move, like a decision was made here. The sellers overwhelmed the buyers. You knocked off another 2 on 8, which is 25%. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know where this thing goes, but I don't think we've never seen it at $6 until that's the lowest it's been on this page.
Yeah.
Look at this. This is, yeah. Look at that, 15, 6. There's blood in the streets.
Blood in the streets. Blood on Rome. Well, so anyways,
okay.
What do you think, Ed? So what does that chart tell you? Is that
tells
a sell?
Me, yeah.
Don't buy it.
Don't buy it.
Run away.
Yeah.
Run for the hills.
Look at this. April 24th, jumped 7%.
Yeah, April 24th. Okay, but let's look at the news. Last news, July 17th. Cannabis Strategic Ventures and Suniva enter cannabis extraction services agreement. Oh, look, it's a company with no operations, making a deal with a company with no operations. Boy, this is not a promote, is it? Oh, it could be. No, it could be, let's see. Let's read it. Suniva and, Cannabis Strategic, Pink Sheet, Nugs. That's charming. Are pleased to announce the signing of a cannabis concentrate extraction agreement between CP Logistics, Suniva's wholly owned subsidiary, and Pure Applied Sciences, Cannabis Strategic's wholly owned. Okay. Under the terms of the agreement, CPL will perform white label services producing high quality, ultra purified cannabis extracts out of its Sun Oil facility in Cathedral City, California. Under this, okay, great. Are either of these companies growing cannabis yet? Let's look down here a little bit.
I saw a headline there earlier, July the 10th, and it was, as we were jumping screens, it said they were going to do something to unlock value inside the, well, if that was their intention, they certainly didn't unlock any value. They've been unlocking value in reverse.
Well, you know, what if you paid 20
Maybe
cents
that's
a
locking
share?
up value. Well,
yeah. That's the thing. Let's see here. Cannex.
Yeah.
Cannex. Now this is one again that is one of the companies that I am going to say that I'm going to buy some stock in. I'm going to, if it goes lower, I'm going to buy stock in it, just because I was at Jetty Extracts and those guys are so far ahead of the game. Like their lab was something else.
And that's
it's the best
Jetty
lab I've seen in the
Extracts
space.
is involved in Cannex.
Cannex is taking over 100% ownership, and that should be done in a couple weeks. In fact, the Cannex guys were in Oakland working on the deal while I was there. But yeah, that's going to be a big one. Let's take a look at Aurora. How's Aurora doing here after the close now? The reason I want to know about Aurora is because they are a client of the promotion division.
Yeah, yeah.
And they are, now that's quite the downturns. 59 cents after market, down 7%.
Yeah. 7.6, yeah.
We're expecting tomorrow to hear that potentially that they are concluding their deal with MedRelief. Possibly that's going to catalyze, be the end of the selling, and be the reversal.
Let's see how High Hampton closed today.
High Hampton. Just so you know, audience members, Cam Batley will be here at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon Eastern Time. Cam is going to tell us why Aurora is still a buy. In fact, more so now that it's gone down. Looking at High Hampton here, High Hampton closed at 62 cents.
Okay.
62 cents. Now, it's kind of interesting.
Wait, no, was there a trading halt there? No.
There was a halt because they announced that they brought on Tom Larson from Aurora, or not brought on Tom Larson, but Aurora Larson Projects, ALPS, is going to build their cultivation facility, which is arguably a good thing. Arguably a good thing. Clearly, the market didn't care because it decided to keep selling, which, boy, I'm reminded of a mem. Now, is it mem or meme? I've heard some people say mem and other people say meme, and some people say meme. What is it, Ed?
M-E-M-E. You know, there's a.
I think it should be me. Oh, here we go. The opinion from the production department. Yes. Meme. Oh, yeah. Unequivocally meme from the destruction department.
You know, there's a character.
Now wait a sec. Let me finish the story here because otherwise I'm going to forget what I was saying. Oh yes, I'm reminded of a meme where there's a cat, a little kitten on the paper, just like going like this on the toilet paper roll, and all the paper's flying off and the paper's flying out the door.
Right.
What's going on in the cannabis sector lately?
Some people are getting out.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's me telling the story.
Mimi.
Ed, did you happen to catch some of the, speaking of memes, let's look at some of the Putin Trump cartoons since that summit in Helsinki. Look at some of these images. They are just priceless.
They got some real good.
No, we don't want cartoons. We want the memes. Memes. Oops, I forgot an E. Oh yes, here's my favorite. Let's get this one up on the full screen. View. Visit.
This is.
Oh no, doesn't allow that to happen. Okay.
Trump believes that torture works.
But that's a good one.
There you go. That's nice.
Yeah, this is a good one too, right here. Is a vote for Trump is a vote for Putin.
It actually looks good in the bow tie there. I think it.
Yeah. I think they should take that show on the road. Anyways, that's enough. That's enough Trump bashing for today.
Raw.
Yeah, raw. Anyways, so I'd say that pretty much concludes our show for today because it's 4:47.
All right.
Which is exactly 27 minutes after 4:20. The significance of that being, it's well past time for 4:20.
Well past time for 4:20.
Ed, are you going to have beer now?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was hoping Bill Matulis was going to drop by.
He never did he? We're going to have Bill Matulis here. Bill, are you here? Is Bill here? Cam, how many publicly traded companies in the cannabis space in Canada?
There's about 38 to 40.
That's it?
Yeah. I sent you a list. You check.
Oh, you did? Oh, look at that. What a great
Cam.
guy. There's Cam.
Thanks.
Cam's looking after us. 38 to 40 publicly traded
That's
cannabis
it?
companies in Canada.
That's it?
I can't believe that.
And they just came out with 7 more.
Yeah. I know. Well, see, lots to come. Lots to come. Justin Marshall, one of our favorite guys in Pebble Beach, California. We're coming to see you, Justin. Actually, you know, Justin might actually be on our show. Justin, would you like to be on our show? I think we're going to have a chat via Skype tomorrow. Would you like to do that? Let's have a chat via Skype. He's a very knowledgeable guy. He's all up in the cannabis space. I went to he's got some videos giving various tutorials and everything. I think he'd be a good addition to our mix.
Good.
Yeah, we
Good.
need more guys. Let's see, tomorrow we've got Cam Batley here at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to talk about Aurora and the future of Aurora post-MedReleaf. We're going to have a chat with Justin Marshall, who is our West Coast correspondent. What? Justin, did I just make you the West Coast correspondent? Yeah. Anyways, let's see, who else are we going to talk to tomorrow? Suzanne, who else are we talking to tomorrow? Suzanne?
I bet you the list of people you're not talking to is longer.
Oh, Suzanne Garcia is going to be tomorrow here at 4:20 with the product of the day. We forgot about that. Oh, I thought we forgot about that. Let's see. Steve Meisner might be here tomorrow. No, Steve Meisner's away.
He's gone hiatus. He's away.
Okay, so I have no co-host at this point for tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be interviewing a new co-host. I'm going to go off just grab one off the street and drag him up here and see if he wants to do this.
Yeah.
So let's see. Yeah, like us, follow us, tweet us. We've got some new technologies on our website that we can actually you can get a tweet every time, not a tweet, but a text every time we're broadcasting. Our goal is to shoot this show every day live from 3 to 4:30. That's the goal. 90-minute show.
Yeah.
With different guests, different companies. We don't just cover cannabis, do we?
No.
I can't remember.
And at the rate it's going, we may want to shift our focus.
Yeah, I think it's time for lithium.
Well,
I think I'd like to try some lithium instead of cannabis.
Or Valium.
Valium. Is there a Valium market coming? Whew, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that's 90 minutes. That's all for us. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you all hopefully here tomorrow.